back to our non-toxic podcast. Did you miss me? I very much missed you guys. The original plan was to stay on this podcast hiatus until my mental health was in a better spot, but it doesn't appear that we have that kind of time. So I just decided to come back now. So welcome. Here I am post 6-week hiatus. Don't worry, I'm not going to wear these sunglasses the whole time. I just thought it was going to be a fun little way to intro the episode, maybe catch your eye if my glaring hair change didn't already do that for you. Speaking of mental health, I did box dye my hair last night around midnight in my bathroom by myself. So if that's not the update that you expected to get, let's just get right into everything that you've missed. First and foremost, we are drinking a grape Olipop. This is the afternoon, so we're not doing coffee. I know I flip around on my recording schedules, so I don't want you to think I'm some kind of psychopath that drinks knockoff sodas first thing in the morning, because I'm not. Anyways, on to more important matters. So this hiatus was to kind of get my mental health into a spot where I felt like I had more to pour back out into the world. And it's hard to say because I loved doing the podcast, and I still do love doing the podcast, even though I will admit coming back into the studio and setting everything up and like getting both the cameras ready to go, getting the outline, getting the equipment set up, testing. I have like butterflies in my stomach. I feel nervous being back here. I feel nervous talking to the camera, even though it's not even like I took a break from creating content altogether, because I've been kind of on my little YouTube grind lately, which that's neither here nor there. We won't plug one creative outlet on the other one, but it's just kind of a surreal feeling to be here talking as though nothing has changed, but at the same time, nothing has changed. And also at the same time, many things have. So it's going to be kind of a rambly catch-up episode, but I just really missed having this community and this platform and being able to talk to just you guys. So I've gotten so much kind feedback. Spotify Wrapped came out this past week, and I have the numbers written down. Let me read them to you. Let's see. We had 968 people have this podcast in their top 10, which is incredible. I'm just floored that many people even listen to it, let alone listen to it that frequently. We have 646 people have this podcast in their top 5, and we were the number 1 podcast for 194 listeners, which just makes me want to crawl into a corner and cry. Happy tears, of course. But that, and combined with all of the positive feedback and the kind outreach that I've received from the beginning of this break, kind of all throughout the little hiatus, people had reached out and said they were re-listening to holiday episodes to get back into the swing of things, into the holly jolly spirit. Everything just made me feel so humbled and so grateful that people listen and have gotten something positive out of this podcast in one way or another over the past 2 years that I've been doing it. So it made me just think, why am I taking this break? One, I did need the break. So why am I extending this break, I should say, waiting to be a more polished, more wise, more put together version of myself, when that's not really what this podcast was built on. It was built on authenticity and just me showing up exactly how I am, which I don't think any of us would list the words positive, put together, polished in that, that description as of late. So who am I kidding? You guys don't expect me to show up here and be a role model. So what am I waiting for? That was kind of my train of thought coming back into this. It's been 6 weeks since my hiatus. So let me just give you a catch up. Actually, let's just start with what we know. Let's do a report. So what am I reading? I finally finished the Throne of Glass series. I finished the entire thing. I think whenever I stopped recording, I was tandem reading. So I had just begun the tandem read, which is the 2 books obviously being read simultaneously. That was a doozy. I was hesitant with that whole thing. I kind of thought it was one of those book talk, okay, you have to do it, but you don't really have to do it. After reading them, I now understand why they're meant to be read in tandem, and I stand corrected. I will never question book talk ever again. That was wonderful. Then I finished the series with the penultimate book, Kingdom of Ash. It was wonderful. It broke my soul into a million pieces, and I'm thrilled I can finally look at the fan art and the TikToks and the edits and everything. However, I am very disappointed that the journey is over for me. I'm thinking that I will medicate by rereading the ACOTAR series for a 3rd time. But I think it's because I read that series for the first time and finished it around this time last year. So this time of year is now imprinted with that world, and I think it just feels right to revisit it in December. Eating. I'm eating very clean right now because I did just get back from Florida and then Thanksgiving right after that. So I spent a week in Florida for my birthday, and that was wonderful. We'll do more on that in a second. But I ate like an absolute 8-year-old unsupervised with an unlimited budget in Florida, and then came back and went right into Thanksgiving. So it's in a little cuckoo bananas in the digestive tract lately, and I'm trying to reset that. I know the holidays are coming up, and I have the occasional festive drink, festive cookie, etc. I'm still a human being, but I need to get a grip because we do have a vacation coming up in January, and I don't need to look like St. Nicholas himself following the holidays. Anywho, what am I playing? I'm trying to get back into listening to music, and this is going to be one of probably many depressing things that I say in this episode, and I promise it's not a cry for help, even though my hair might say otherwise. This is not a cry for help. I just haven't been listening to music. There have been so many random little things that I feel like have changed about me over the past 6 months, 4 months, 2 months, whatever. And one of the biggest ones I don't think I realized is that I don't listen to music anymore. And I don't really know when that started, but last year, for example, I had probably 40,000 more minutes on my Spotify Wrapped than I did this year. And that's what brought this to my attention, is that I feel like I listened to music so much the first half of the year. Even that was less so than the previous year. And I just like faded out of it. I've been driving in silence, which is usually something I only do if I'm extremely sad or extremely overstimulated. And I don't really know which combination of emotions caused it this time. But I know I've been doing a lot of talking on the phone. I do have a very codependent marriage. I'm obsessed with my husband, so I call him every chance I get. We talk on the phone no fewer than 8 times a day. I also talk to my mom quite a bit. So I think it's a combination of shifting to talking to people in the car, which is mainly when I listen to music, and also just not really wanting extra noise in my brain. So I haven't been listening to podcasts really. I haven't been listening to music. I just listen to my own inner dialogue. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe I have spiraled because I need to distract myself from my inner dialogue rather than just indulging it and listening to it. That could be what's causing me to have all these crazy thoughts. Anyways, I'm trying to get back into it with this playlist, my top songs 2024 coming out. Then I have the chance to re-indulge in all of these things that I have obviously liked previously, and I'm listening to them and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have great taste in music. This is wonderful. So yeah, we're playing music once again. Sorry, that sounded a little bit depressing. I promise it's not. I just have been distracted from even the most minor things like listening to music. Obsessing over the holiday spirit. I'm trying to have a good time, if you guys don't mind. What am I recommending? This is kind of niche, but I'm recommending anything from Aerie. I've been on a big Aerie kick lately. I went shopping back in October. I went shopping with my mother and sister-in-law later, and then I went shopping for Black Friday and also in Florida, and I've bought something from Aerie, just I think one thing every single time. They have the absolute best bodysuits, the shapewear collection. I think they're doing kind of a Skims dupe situation. The branding is kind of similar to what Skims looks like. I don't know if I should say that, but it's amazing. Like their bodysuits, I think I got 3 or 4, $10 each. They're amazing. They're so soft, and I have been wearing them an embarrassing amount. But they're basics, and that's the point. Moving right along. What am I treating myself to? This whole month has kind of been a treat. Today is Friday. It's Treat Yourself Friday as of me recording this. And I treated myself to the cookie butter latte from Urban Grounds. It was wonderful. It's one of the best holiday drinks I've had in my 26 years of living. So that's the report as of today. And we're going to jump into a recap. Hold on, buckle up. There's a lot going on. I don't think I'm going to be emotional about this because I honestly think that I've cried out all my tears, and I still am in a weird spot where I'm not overly emotional. I've had some cracks in the dam recently, but basically whenever I left off, I was talking to you guys about how I've been putting my emotions kind of in a box. There's just so many big things happening and so many big emotions that I think it's a self-preservation tactic just to not feel the extent of my feelings. And if I were to do so, I think that I would overwhelm myself and almost cause more turmoil, which is not necessary. So I just chose kind of not to feel them, just to shove them deep down and not think about it and not talk about it and pretend like they weren't happening. And even though on the surface that sounds very unhealthy, like you should feel and process your emotions, I also think when there's nothing to be done about your current situation and no amount of talking about it can fix the problem, you can't by your own merit find a solution. You can't muscle your way or think your way or manipulate your way into what you want, then there's not really a purpose in harping on it in my mind. I think that talking about things can be therapeutic in some regards, but in other ways, it just kind of reminds me of the the sad aspects of the situation that I'm in, and I'd much rather focus on the happy ones because there are so many more of those anyways. And the more I talk about what's bothering me, the more I am bothered by those things. Versus if I talk about what's happy and almost just keep the sad things in their sad corner for me to tap into when I need to feel them, then that has worked out better for me. But it has been a pretty rough past few months. So if you're new to listening here, which I hope some of you are, welcome for one. Welcome back to the rest of you who have been here with me for many months, many episodes, many hair colors, many obsessions, many crises. I owe you my life for listening, even though you probably don't want it. So what we're talking about right now is this past year, essentially when I turned 25 years old, last November 17th, 2023. I like to joke that that's when my curse began because I had a great birthday. I had a great time. Life was great. Everything was amazing. I was coming off of this super hot career year. I was traveling, just making great money. Everything's great. I'm crossing off goals left and right. It was just awesome. And then I kind of slowed down towards the fall on purpose and was just so happy. Like I think 2023 was truly the happiest year of my life in so many ways. It was so fulfilling. It was so challenging in a good way, in a constructive, fulfilling way. And just everything, relationships, my marriage, like everything was just thriving. And it got to this point where my husband and I were talking and we decided to try and start a family. That happened very quickly. And I ended up finding out that I was pregnant right after my 25th birthday. And we were over the moon. It was so exciting. And then after Thanksgiving, we ended up having a miscarriage between Thanksgiving and early December. And that was obviously very traumatic. There's a whole episode on that if you'd like to listen to the more in-depth story. That just shook me in a way that I never anticipated. And I spent a lot of the first half of last year thinking that there was some kind of mistake and treating the first half of the year like this isn't how things were supposed to shake out. I was supposed to, have a baby. I was supposed to be pregnant. We weren't supposed to go down this path. We were supposed to have this blessing. And I was living as though the time was not correct. I was like, it was a waiting season. It was a wasted season. It wasn't important for me to really maximize where I was because I felt like I had, almost missed the bus and now I'm just waiting for the next one to come along. So I'm just twiddling my thumbs and waiting for the next one to come rather than thinking, okay, I missed the bus. Now I need to walk, if that analogy makes any kind of sense at all. So I treated the year like it was just a throwaway year for the first half. And then sometime around the summer, I had been, working with doctors and doing different hormone things. It was a long story, but you guys who have listened already know, and you might not care if you don't. I kind of realized midway through the year that I was wasting this time. And even though I was struggling with, this loss emotionally and our efforts to get pregnant at that point weren't working. So I was having a hard time, but it wasn't the end of the world. And I was stealing my own happiness and making myself suffer as a result of holding on to it. And I made this conscious choice to not focus on it. And that's where this whole putting it into a box thing kind of was incepted, was to focus on the happy things in my life and stop only looking at what I didn't have and what wasn't progressing. Lo and behold, we made some changes to our strategy, the medication that I was on that was, it turns out, preventing me from ovulating, blah, blah, blah. And we got pregnant in July. I was again over the moon. I saw all these God winks, all these things, these signs that pointed towards this being the answer to our prayers, to being a blessing. And it just seemed like everything was like the timing, so many random things had just fallen right into place where I felt truly blessed and like this is how things were meant to be. And then I ended up having another miscarriage. And that, for some reason, it just sent me into this like despair that I don't even know if I adequately summarized on the podcast, because I sometimes have to almost like play a character that's okay to feel okay. And that's so natural that it doesn't feel as much of a facade as it really is. So I think it's so natural for me to want to be okay so badly that I'm like, well, I'll just pretend. And even though everything that I've said was authentic, I think I always hide the full extent of probably what I'm feeling. And I'm sure a lot of you do that. And as women, we tend to be people pleasers. If there's any men listening, which I don't imagine that there are, you might feel the same way. But I know women primarily want to make people feel comfortable and to feel safe around them. And a lot of that comes with this self-sacrificial need to hide your emotions, especially the ugly ones. And that's definitely what I was doing. But I think it was because with the second miscarriage, we were told by the doctor we were seeing that it's time to see a specialist. And we went from being 1 in 4 women lose their first pregnancy, this is totally normal, you shouldn't have any other issues, to now it's been 2 losses. This is a fertility problem. You need to go speak to your doctor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a whole slew of new emotions. It was a whole new kind of like, well, now this journey is getting close to a year. This is a lot more than I feel like I anticipated and braced myself for. So that's when things started to shift. And then a few weeks into that, my grandpa got sick, and he is someone that's very, very close to me. And guys, I'm not going to cry, but I might actually cry. Don't cry with me. Okay. I am very close to my grandpa, and he got very sick. And when I tell you that I'm close to my grandpa, I mean, I saw him like every day. He and my grandma moved from Colombia whenever I was in the 4th grade. And I'm sorry. Some of my happiest memories are with him and with my grandma, and we just had so many happy times together, and I was so close to him, and he was in so many ways this spiritual leader for me, and this liaison that I felt like I had to God, like directly to him, because his faith was so strong, and I aspired to have that same kind of faith. But he got sick, and it was very sudden. He was driving around, he was fine. We actually had several heated arguments, my mom and I, with him, about how he was not to go in the attic by himself, how he was not to do all of these things that he thought that he was, able-bodied enough to do. And then in a matter of weeks, he went completely bedridden, and he wasn't able to get up. And it was actually a crazy day that we found out the extent of his illness. I had been shooting all day. I was with a client. The shoot ended early. I met my mom and my grandma at the emergency room because they had finally gotten to a point that they were like, he's not getting better. This isn't just a case of him being 83. This is a problem. So they were, back there for several hours, and I got there, and I had to sneak in because you're only allowed two family members with you in the emergency room. But you know me, I will find a back entrance. And I had been there for maybe 10 minutes when the doctor came in and said that he has cancer. And we've been through that journey before with my mom, but the difference was that she was in her 30s and he's in his 80s, and it's just much different. The treatment plan, the outlook, the prognosis, everything. So we found out in that span, he was in the hospital for about a week, that he had 2 brain tumors. He had tumors in his lungs, and it had just spread to a point that, at that age, you kind of know the writing on the wall. It just doesn't make it easier. So I spent the better part of that week going to see him in the hospital and just trading off with my family. And I think that's whenever I really started to consider taking this break, because, when someone's sick, it just makes everything pale in comparison. Nothing seems important. Nothing seems like it really matters, especially, me coming on here and talking about my life when the life of someone that I love is kind of hanging in the balance. So in this time period, I think he was released from the hospital on September 23rd, and he came home, and he was just not improving in the slightest. He had gone to a couple visits with different doctors and ultimately decided that treatment was not for him, that he had lived an amazing life, and that he knew where he was going, and that he was ready to go, be reunited with people that he loved. So he decided not to pursue treatment, and we called in hospice. By we, I mean my amazing mother, who keeps our whole family running. But they called in hospice, and he ended up passing away a few days later. And my mom and my grandma and I got to be there with him when he passed away, which was awful and amazing and awful all at once. It was pretty much as peaceful as we could have ever anticipated it being. I think it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. But I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else. To say goodbye to someone who has been the best friend and the best grandpa that I could have ever asked for. So that was hard. Let me collect myself and come back to you. Okay, I'm back. I don't know that I'm much better, but that was inevitable, honestly. that was going to happen, no matter how much or little detail that I gave you. But it was horrible. It was terrible. I was so sad. But I am grateful for the peace that I have in knowing that he knew where he was going and that he had so much hope and joy. And even his final moments, there was no fear, there was no anxiety. It was just faith. And I think that that's the exact way that he would have wanted to leave this world. And especially knowing that the people that were closest to him were watching, I think that it was just so remarkable for me, who has had, faith struggles in this past year, and never in the way that I've wavered in my belief, but just in my anger towards God and his goodness. And just to see someone who loved God and their faith and that had such a strong relationship that, even in death was so passionate about what they believed, that there was no fear. And I think that changed me a lot in a lot of ways for the better, even though, I probably could benefit from talking to a therapist. But that was whenever I had decided to take the podcast break and recorded the final episode that week. So if you're wondering, girl, why was your 100th episode 10 minutes long? Why was it so lackluster? Why was it a complete and utter letdown, basically? That's because that's the week that my grandpa passed away. And I know that it might seem like I'm being a little over dramatic because it was a grandparent and grandparents pass away. However, this is just different. And I can't explain the relationship that we had. It was just the best. So it was very difficult. And I don't deal well with death. Not that anyone does. That's a stupid thing to say. But I don't process it at all. I think I just completely kind of go into an avoidant autopilot mode. And that was very difficult as well because I don't know how to snap out of it. So for a few weeks, I just couldn't cry. I couldn't let these feelings out. And I did want to talk. And I felt like with the miscarriage and then losing my grandpa a month later, it felt like I was, barely getting back on my feet, barely, after that first blow. And then the second one just completely knocked me down. And it was just, I felt like just withdrawing from everything. And not even in like a super depressing way. And just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know who to talk to. I don't even know what I want to talk about. I just wanted to just exist. And that took all my energy for the time being. So it was a good decision, I know, for me to take a hiatus from this podcast, even not knowing that I was going to lose my grandpa so quickly after I made that decision. But I think that I had to give myself some time to find words again. And now I feel like I have found the words. They might not be the most perfect, eloquent words, and they might, reflect that I'm not in the most happy, plucky state that I would like to be in, but they're real. And I know that the reality is that a lot of us are going through things that we don't talk about. And maybe in some way, if I can get on here and cry to you about what I'm struggling about, then you will be reminded that we're all going through something. And as shitty as that is, we can find hope somewhere. I'll report back to you on all the places that I'm finding it. But I just want to say, even though I'm probably going to fumble over my words, I do appreciate the opportunity and the ability to let all of my emotions out and to have a place to kind of heal on the microphone. And over the course of the past year, even though it's been very difficult and I feel like my progress has not been linear, it's been forward and back and up and down and every which way, I know that having this ability to speak to people that do give me honest, open, supportive feedback and talk to me about your stories and the things that you guys are going through, that's been so incredibly helpful and humbling for me to remember that, I'm not the center of the universe. My problems are not the end all be all. I'm not the only person suffering, and that I have things that others are praying for and so on. So this platform truly has been therapy in a way for me, even if it's just me alone in this room right now. I know that I'm not truly alone and that I have so many of you that would and have prayed for me, and just know that I would always return the favor for you. If you have prayer requests, if you need to talk, then my DMs are always open. So even though I haven't really been one for coffee dates lately, I hope to get back to that era of me soon. Okay, so I also knew that this would be kind of whiplash to go from that conversation to any other aspect of my life, but I would like to talk about something happier. So I've been up at the gym working on my fitness, and that's something that's I know it sounds like okay, jarring for a second, but I've been spending a lot of time in the gym, a lot of time with my brother, who you guys know from his repeated episodes where he doesn't talk. But it's been so helpful for me in the way that it's helped me to reconnect with my body and almost feel less shame surrounding it. Let me explain what I mean by that. I feel like with the 2 losses this year and the inability for us to get pregnant and stay pregnant, then I've had this like disconnect between myself and my physical body, and thinking that there's something defective, there's something wrong. And in addition to all the tests that have constantly been run, all the blood work and all the different things and the hormone therapies, it just makes you start to feel like a lab rat in some ways. And I'm not even as far into my journey as some women have gone, but it's made me feel this like resentment towards what I'm not able to do. So throwing myself wholeheartedly into this fitness journey in not a way that I had previously where I just like to work out, so I would do it, but having like an actual program and tracking my food and getting enough protein and trying to make progress has been exponentially more helpful than I think avoiding the gym and taking it easy on myself, just because it's given me goals to motivate myself to work towards and challenges, but it's also showed me that there's reasons to be proud of your body. There's things that it's not doing, there's things that you would like it to do, and maybe um, lack of a certain hormone that you need, but that's okay because look at all these other amazing things that it allows you to do, and these workouts that make you feel so great, and just the progress that I'm able to see has almost brought me back to myself in a lot of ways. So that's been very cathartic to be able to find something that I love that's so constructive that mends that brokenness. Also, it's fun because no one talks at the gym, so you can just go and kind of zone out. And I think that's also one of the reasons that my brother and I have gotten so close, is because girls, we like to talk about our feelings, and 23-year-old brothers really don't. So it's kind of a safe place to just go and exist and communicate through like hand signals in the gym, like we're fighter pilots. Okay, let's go. I'm reading my own outline, and I wrote this so that I wouldn't be so scattered, and now I'm reading this, and I'm like, even this is scattered. So, okay, I didn't really do anything for my birthday because that was a month after my grandpa had passed away. We had been spending a lot of family time. I think my grandma and my mom and I are trauma bonded because of what we had experienced, and we had spent so much time together. We had family in town, and they were gone, and then things finally slowed down, and my birthday just wasn't anywhere on my radar. I also think that with my social battery feeling like it has been on negative capacity for the past few months, really anything felt like it would be draining, even the concept. So I told my friends, I don't want to do anything for my birthday. And they were like, yeah, right. So I kind of insisted on not doing anything. They ended up surprising me with a little girl's day and a trip to a winery, and it was very sweet and fun. But I had this weird notion in my head, even before my grandpa got sick, that I just had to make it to my 26th birthday because it felt like the cursed year, quote, was what I had been calling it, that it had all started on my 25th birthday. So everything was great until I turned 25. And then that whole year just went to hell in a handbasket. It was like bad luck, car accident, this sick, another loss, everything, everything, everything. So it was not good. And to give myself kind of this hope, I was like, okay, well, it's going to end obviously on my 26th birthday. That's just like the natural line of thinking. If I can just make it to 26, life will be good, everything will be fine. And it started off as a joke, just like a funny thing. And then I was like, okay, if I can just make it to 26, then things will be fine. And I wanted to just crawl across the finish line. I didn't really care about a party. I didn't care about anything else. I had a big social birthday last year, and look how that year went. So I'm like, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. So I was just going to do anything to counteract that mojo. The next week, my husband and his family and we all went to Universal. It was amazing, you guys. I posted a YouTube video about it. If you want to know more, you probably don't care about my thoughts on Universal, but if you do, go watch the YouTube video. It was very fun. I loved it. I nerded out. It was incredible. Had the best time. Then they all flew home, and he and I stayed for the rest of the week. We went to Daytona Beach just to have a couple days to ourselves. And obviously it's cold, it's November, but just to walk on the beach, it's so peaceful and grounding, and just to reset, like take a deep breath, breathe in the salt air. People in the 1800s used to swear by it as a way to stave off dysentery, I guess. So that's also good. And then we went back to Orlando for a work conference that my husband's company was a part of, and I didn't attend any of the seminars. I just went to the spa, and it was glorious. But again, all that's in a YouTube video, so go watch that if you feel like really recapping the week with me. That's not for here. This is about mental health and more important things. So it's been a kind of a busy season. And since we got back, obviously there was Thanksgiving, there were the holidays, and I really struggled, I think, Thanksgiving week because not only was that the anniversary of the first miscarriage, but it was also the anniversary of a lot of happy memories that had happened last year. Like I remember finding out that we were pregnant the day before Thanksgiving and then telling our families and everything else. Like all of that happened around that same week. And then now to combine that sense of deja vu with the fact that one, we're missing my grandpa. There's a huge gaping hole in our lives and hearts and the table. And also the fact that I feel like we haven't made any progress, that it was a very heavy week. And I felt like we hadn't made any movement. Like we've done all these tests, we've done all these things, but we haven't determined a course of action. We haven't found a problem and so on. And that was difficult. So trying to find, that positive spark and to love Thanksgiving like I usually do was a little bit more difficult than I have found it in previous years. But I was determined to have a good Thanksgiving, and I did. But it's just one of those things. The first year after you lose someone is always very difficult. I know a lot of people in my life have struggled with that this year as well. And my heart goes out to everyone who's, looking at an empty table this holiday season, empty seat at the table. So where we're at now, let's see. I feel like I have recognized so many changes in myself over the past year, really, but over the past maybe 3 months. And I know this is going to sound like, well, duh, because you changed your entire hair. I feel like I'm a new person, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like there are so many things like I used to identify myself with and by, and ways that I defined my personality and who I am. And it was like, I think I had a very clear cut vision of what I like, what I'm aiming for, who I am. And for some reason, a lot of that has been stripped away, not by any one thing. Like it's not as though losing my grandpa or having these miscarriages or having whatever has happened to me this year, it's not like those things make it impossible to enjoy the same things. It's just that I've changed. And like, for example, I haven't watched a Marvel movie, I don't think, in 2 months. And for about 2 years there, that I wouldn't go more than 2 days. I don't really listen to much music. I haven't been watching the same things. I just don't really find the same things appealing. I used to have a social battery for days and love to talk to people and love to be on all the time. And to be completely transparent, I feel like the reason that I've been pursuing YouTube is because it almost makes me fake it till you make it. So it's, for example, if I'm driving and I'm listening to nothing and I'm just sitting there 10 and 2 driving, thinking about things, I'm probably not in the best mood. I'm probably not in a horrible mood, but I'm just thinking about anything. And you just go to this like lower place inside yourself. And if I'm recording something, obviously I want it to be a higher quality. So it almost challenges me to then say, hey, here's what we're doing today. Here's where we're going. And like make myself smile because I want to be proud of this product that I'm creating. So it's not that it's inauthentic, that I'm faking it for the camera, but it's because I want to be that for the camera. I want to feel that way. So without really going out of my way to be social, it pushes me to embody that joy that I'm looking to have again. So that's been helpful and it's been fun. And I think it'll be fun to look back on those videos and just, relive this time of my life. It's not like I'm trying to make millions of dollars on YouTube. I really don't even care who watches the videos. It's just for fun. But it does challenge me to like exercise my social meter. And I even was nervous coming on to this podcast today because I knew that I would be a little bit disjointed and a little bit scattered for so many reasons. But even just because I just don't feel like as charismatic. I don't feel as well-spoken. I don't feel as witty. So I was nervous. And I think that I'm glad that I've been doing YouTube just to have the practice talking to myself, I guess. But maybe I just need to get a life and start seeing people again. And I know it sounds like, have you been hiding in a cave? I've been seeing clients. I've been working and I've been seeing people. But just in comparison to the extent that I used to socialize, this is not much at all. This is a lot less. And I think that's totally okay. I think that we go through phases. There's that stupid Tumblr quote that used to go viral all the time back whenever I was in high school that's like, nothing in nature blooms all year round. And you know what? I think that's great. I think that it is very overused, but I think it's 1,000% accurate. We can't be pushing ourselves 1,000% of the time to constantly be better and to do more. You have to have times where you pause and, I don't know a good gardening analogy, but let's just say plow your garden and plant new seeds. So hopefully that's an accurate analogy. But I think it's just that we have to take time to reset. And this is actually something that I've been very relevantly, I don't know, a word that I've been recently struggling with, so it's very relevant, is that I feel as though this particular stage of my life, now that all the chaos almost of the sadness, the funerals, the doctor's appointments, the blood work, like all of these things have kind of slowed down. I'm more left to my own devices for the first time in months. And I am feeling kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing now? Like, what am I supposed to be focusing on? Am I supposed to be pursuing more clients? Because I have my solid group of clients. I haven't taken on a ton of new ones, mainly out of lack of desire, I guess, to grow my business. I'm very happy with how it is. But in comparison to how I have always been, I don't know what to do with this new contentment to stay the same size. I've always been growth oriented. I've always been goal oriented. So to let off the gas feels very foreign, even though I know it's the right call right now. And to not really have anything in particular that I'm working towards. There are obviously things that I want. Everyone knows that. But it's nothing that I can accomplish by my own merit. So I feel as though I'm in this weird, like, I'm in outer space just kind of drifting and like bumping into random debris. And I was talking to my husband and just saying, I don't know what my purpose is supposed to be in this time of my life. I don't know what I'm supposed to be aiming for, working towards, or doing. And he's like, maybe the point of the season is to heal. You know, maybe all of these things around you aren't just meant to be pointless. Like maybe it's a blessing that your career is so flexible that you can take a step back whenever you want to. And it has been in so many ways exactly what I need when I need it. Whenever I needed something to make me bold and to make me push myself and come out of my shell and really work hard, my career was that. Whenever I needed something to really challenge me and to keep me so busy and to give me this pride and this identity and all of these accolades to kind of give myself confidence, my career was that. And now I need more peace. I need kind of to take respite in my own life, and my business is also able to be that for me. So rather than seeing it kind of as a thing that I'm not really trying to grow, like it's such a blessing that I have the flexibility and the amazing clients and the security of having worked so hard in years past that now I can take a little bit of a breather and not try and grow. I think all of those things are such an incredible blessing. And he was right. You know, if I was as busy now as I had been before, I wouldn't be able to go set up my grandma's Apple Watch at 1:00 on a Tuesday. I wouldn't be able to go see my mom when she's having a rough day. I wouldn't be able to, you know, do Bible studies with my brother when he has days off work. I wouldn't be able to spend as much time with my husband as I am. And there are so many blessings that are just not necessarily productive or measurable in the sense that I would have qualified them as, oh, I'm working very hard. But it's just a different kind of stage. And I think there's a lot of growth that I still need to do in my own soul. And it's nice to not have as much pressure to go 1,000 miles an hour, either socially or in my career or anything else. And with all that being said, I kept saying to myself, you know, I need to come back to the podcast. I need to do this because I have the time. But I just didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I had enough to say or that I was going to be funny. I was afraid that I was going to release an episode and it would just be boring and depressing and that everyone would listen to it and be like, oh, I need a Xanax now. That was horrible. And maybe you still will. Maybe after this episode, you'll be like, dang, girl, you need therapy and to stay off the microphone. And if that's the case, maybe keep that feedback to yourself because I don't want to hear it right now. I'm still not accepting negative feedback. But I think it just kind of clicked for me. Like I'm learning so many things through diving deeper into my own Bible studies. I've actually been, you know, using a tangible Bible and not just the app and trying to really feel the process. And I sound so like, you just got to get in line with your third chakra and do this. I know that's how it sounds, but I have always done Bible studies on the app and I do it, you know, over here and I'm making coffee over here and then I'm not thinking about it and I'm tapping through this and a text comes in and I get distracted and it's become more of like a checking something off of a list. And then I sit and say to myself, you know, I do my Bible study. I'm connected with God. I do all these things. Like, where is my blessing? And to sit and think about it, I don't know that I've been listening. Like I've been unloading a lot of my problems onto God and I've been journaling and praying and asking for things, but have I really been listening? So I've been really focusing on my morning routine of being very solid and you know, making coffee, sitting down and immediately going into prayer time and journal time and reading the physical Bible and focusing on not just saying my part, but listening for a response because conversations go two ways. And if I'm hoping God speaks to me, I got to listen too. I can't like make a phone call and then turn my phone off, you know? So that's what I've been working on. And I think that as I'm growing and learning and figuring these things out, it's obviously selfish of me to not share that with the world because I will never be completely done learning. I will always be a work in progress. So I might as well be sharing that with you guys if you feel the same way. But I don't know. I think that where I'm at right now is that I'm embracing this slower season and really trying to cherish all of the things that I know are fleeting, like just the proximity to my parents, the fact that, Austin and we're sad we don't have kids yet. We want them, but what a blessing it is to have more time with someone that I'm so close to, that I love so much, and we can make all these memories. And, our pre-kid lore is going to go crazy because we've had all this extra time to really travel and see the world and do different things. And I'm so close to Evan before he gets into a serious relationship and before we have kids and go off on our path. And, my parents are empty nesters now, and we're able to be friends in a way that we weren't really friends whenever I was growing up. So there's so many blessings around me that I feel like I haven't necessarily leaned into as much as I should. And that's what I'm making my goal right now, is to give myself the grace to not feel 100% like I used to be, because that's normal. We grow and we change, and you're allowed to mourn past versions of yourself while not trying to go back to them. And that's been something that I've kind of grappled with over the past few months, is that I know I can point to all these things and be like, I used to love doing this, and I used to be good at this, and I used to be so good at that, and I used to be outgoing, and I used to be whatever. And almost berating myself for not living up to this past standard of who I was and what I was good at, when in reality we're supposed to grow and we're supposed to change, and different seasons of your life demand different things from you. So it's not realistic to think that you're going to stay this exact same version of yourself forever. And to be, hard on myself for the person that I've become after dealing with difficult things is cruel. So I wouldn't expect that from someone that I loved. I wouldn't ask a good friend of mine, had she gone through similar things, and be like, why aren't you as much fun as you used to be? Why aren't you socializing with me as much? Why aren't you posting Instagram as much? I would never say those trivial things to a friend that had endured something that was difficult. So why am I saying that to myself? Why am I trying to hold myself to the standard of like bouncing back immediately and feeling great all of a sudden? And I think it takes time to let your emotions run the course. And for some reason, I feel like I've gotten to the point, like, this is now December. This is 2 months later after everything has kind of happened, that my emotions are starting to come to the surface. I've cried a lot this week. Obviously, I cried just now. But I think maybe there's like a statute of how long you can keep your emotions repressed before they start to come back out. And maybe now my brain's like, okay, this seems like the coast is clear. Things seem safe. Nothing crazy is happening right now. Now let's cry every day. And I have been. So if you're with me, then I'm sorry for you. But I don't know. I think that it's not bad to cry. Sorry to the fern. It's not bad to cry. I think that for a while I truly just didn't have that option. My brain had shut that passageway off, and I wasn't able to be sad. And now I'm able to work through those emotions in a healthy way, which is talking to you. Okay, moving along. I think that my takeaways are, any day that I'm not having one of the worst days of my life is a good day. Any day that I'm not getting news that a pregnancy isn't viable, that my grandpa has cancer, I'm not watching someone that I love pass away, any day that those bad things are not happening is a good day. And any day that I get to see people I love, I get to do something I love, I get to be creative, I get to go outside, I get to move my body. Any day where I can do those is a great day. So that's what I've been kind of clinging to and holding on to, is that, yeah, it really sucks that I've had some of the worst times of my life this year. But at the same time, I would never have had this perspective that's so, it's almost like the bar is so low where, okay, this is a good day. Like these things aren't happening today. Shoot, it's going to be a good day. And that's giving me, versus being like, oh, well, this happened and I'm so sad about this. It didn't happen today. So I can be happy today. And I can still obviously mourn what I'm mourning and be sad, and not really shut that side of me out in the history, but also look at the things that are positive. And like I said at the very beginning of the episode, there are so many things that I have in my life that other people are praying for, and it's a complete disservice to the blessings that God has given me, to the people that are praying for what I have now, to dismiss that and just be like, well, this is great, but it's not what I wanted. And to be completely honest, most of what I have now is something that I had at one point prayed for. So who am I to sit and say, oh, well, this is great, but like, what's next? I want the next prayer. And again, why would God bless me with the next thing if all I'm doing is sitting around saying that what he's already given me is not enough? God, I hope you're listening. I am very wise. I've made so much progress. Just kidding, kind of. So I've been doing every creative thing I can think to do. I'm crocheting a sweater currently. Let me take my jacket off because I'm kind of getting toasty, guys. That's crazy because it's like 60 degrees in here. But this is a thick coat. Let's just hope that I don't get freezing cold now. Anyways, I've been crocheting. I know I'm 100 years old, but I'm working on a sweater. It's about a month in the making, and if this ends in me being so frustrated that I can't finish it, I don't know what I will do, because I will end up probably giving everyone pieces of what I've made so far as pot holders for Christmas, and they will have to pretend that they like it because I am mentally fragile right now. And I've been drawing. I've been writing really sad poetry. So if anybody needs to read really depressing, sad, over dramatized, high, hyperbolized poetry, then just let me know. Let me know. And I've got some for you. I've got about 80 pages of it. I have been obviously making YouTube videos. I've been really just doing anything to let these creative emotions flow out of me, because I had talked earlier this year about wanting to have that childlike whimsy back and to find this wonder, this way of looking at the world like you do when you're a kid, when everything's amazing and everything is simple. And it's obviously not replicable as a grown-up, because we have to pay taxes and we have to, make doctor's appointments and do all these things for ourselves. And part of that is just something I think you really do lose whenever you grow up. But there's a lot of it that's also in our control. And to find the magic in the world and in the holiday season and relationships and just days, then I think that you have to make a conscious decision to search for it. So that's why I've been doing sillier things like crafting and wearing pajamas to work and letting myself doodle, even though I'm not very good at it, and all of that, because it really isn't that serious. And I'm tired of walking around and acting like I have, the world's heaviest baggage, because obviously I don't. I know that. I have a very blessed life. And as much as I think that we're entitled to feel our feelings, we also are the only ones responsible for our own healing. And we're the only ones that are in charge of making ourselves better. There's no one that can come along and save you if you don't want to save yourself. Like, Rapunzel could have never gotten saved if she didn't choose to let her hair down. I actually am only familiar with the Barbie version of that, so that could be inaccurate. It's been years since I've seen it. But the point is, it's you that's responsible for it. So as much as I want to say, people could reach out more to me. Actually, I don't want them to do that. But, for the sake of the argument, people could reach out more. It's not my fault I'm not being social. I'm very sad. Or my husband could pry this out of me whenever I'm saying, oh, I'm fine. He needs to keep asking me. That's not anyone else's responsibility. It's your responsibility to heal yourself. It's my responsibility to heal myself. And if I am sitting and saying that I'm unhappy with the energy levels that I have now, with the level of passion that I have now, with just where I'm at mentally, then the only person who's able to change that is me. I have to do the work. I have to show up and talk to God and go to the gym and eat right and do whatever things I need at this point in my life to make me feel fulfilled and to make me feel more whole and more complete. Guys, I hope that was good. I don't have a lot of extra wisdom lying around right now, because what I do have is going towards myself, unfortunately. But that's where I'm at. I'm really trying to muscle up the energy to be like, you know what? There's never a perfect time. You're never going to be 100% better. You're never going to be 100% like, hey guys, I'm feeling healed. I have completely exited my sad girl stage and I'm ready to talk to you about everything I learned. I solved it. Life is good. Let's discuss. That's never going to happen. This sadness will exist within me and live simultaneously with my joy for the rest of my life. I will always have this grief. I will always have these sad memories, but they don't have to run my whole life. It's just learning how to carry the bags that you've been given a little bit better. And that's what we're going to do with this next chapter of the podcast. I have some amazing guests lined up. I have some really fun things that I want to talk to you about. I want to have good conversations. I will be simultaneously in the studio and talking to you from my house, because I have podcasting equipment at home, so we can do the video podcast from my living room. So if you see me in my pajamas, just know that we are now at a whole new level of close. And when this episode comes out, you probably will have already seen my hair online. I hope you've given me compliments, because I asked a few people if I should do it. And by the time I had asked them, I already had purchased the box dye. It was a split decision. My mom said, don't do it. My dad said, hell yeah. My husband said, do it. Evan did not comment. My sister-in-law said, do it. A couple other friends were like, and then I did it last night, and no one has seen it yet as of now. So let's just hope that everyone who doesn't like it keeps their comments to themselves, because I like it and I think it's fun. I think it's new and different, and I think it's not at all concerning that I've had every single hair color that there is in the span of 1 year. I think that's a totally normal thing for a girl to do. But it's almost Christmas. I have so many things to talk to you guys about. We're going to be holly jolly. We're not going to cry every episode. We're going to have so much fun together. And I really missed you guys. At the bottom of the day, in the end line, I just love talking to you. I love putting episodes out, and I get so excited every single week waiting to hear what you guys are going to say. And if you guys like the episode, I love when people share it, when they talk about listening to Iron and Toxic podcast. It literally makes me jump for joy. I get so happy. So don't be shy with your sharing on social media. Don't be nervous. Don't be coy. Go ahead and share that, because if anyone needs a little boost of serotonin, it's your girl. And that's really it. I am so thankful to anyone who's listened to this episode, who's made it to this point. I have missed the podcast so much. There's just something about looking back on the past 2 years that I've been doing this and everything that has changed in my life, everything that's changed about me, the absolute least of which being my hair color about 10 times. But having people who've listened from the beginning and just the ability to go back and reflect on who I was then, what I was going through versus now, what I've learned, what I've gone through, what people have taught me, what God has taught me, it's so humbling. And I know that for however long this podcast is in my life, then I will continue to grow up with the listeners and grow up with you guys. And I had just turned 24 when I started this podcast with Bree, and now I'm 26. So it's been a long time coming. It's been a journey, and I'm just thankful to be on it with such amazing listeners and such a great community of women. So forgive me for being so cheesy. I'm just in my feels today. But that concludes episode number 101. Thank you guys so much for listening. Sorry that I cried, except for that I'm not, because human emotions are nothing to be ashamed about. But I'll try and not do that next time. We'll keep the waterworks to a minimum, because I did not give you a warning that you were in the splash zone for this episode. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you treat yourself on Friday. I hope you have all mountains, no valleys, and I will see you very soon. Bye.